good for you. That party's done nothing for you. I should have known that I was going to get read the riot act by the leftists out here when I posted that thumbnail and that title that essentially seemingly pit black voters against progressive, especially since it's a controversial topic. And it was not intended to be clickbait, but it turned out to be because a lot of people came for me hard. Now, I did respond to most of those people, and it was part of a series that I just started when I decided I'm going to take a pop culture topic and a news item and share with the audience how they connect and are related in my brain. Just as an exercise, because everyone's saying start signature series, and I was like, oh, I have several series on here. I have the kitchen podcast, I have all these other series. Why not start one from scratch and with an intention, with some intentionality, and linking them? Because my next one is about, anyway, that's not what it's about. So I responded to most of the people, mainly from the left. I don't even think a few people who were not from that side commented, but since you may not have seen the video, if you want to see it, it's on this channel. The thumbnail looks like this. I'm gonna put the thumbnail, what it looks like now. Currently, that might change depending on when you watch this video, but right now that's what it looks like. And I responded to some people, so you might not have gone through all the responses, and I even replied back to the people who might have replied back anyway. So this is just a summation for those of you who are curious, or just might want to know. There were 4 types of comments. The first were people who were telling me stuff or argue with me about something that was not in the video. And I understand that perhaps people saw a conversation happening, they saw the thumbnail, and they just want to jump right in, and they didn't even watch my video, which is, I understand. But they were arguing, telling me things that... The second category of people were folks who were tokenizing Black Socialists of America or progressive members. It was odd. The third category were people who were doing class reductionism. Essentially, they were doing what they always do. Bernie Sanders was accused of doing a lot, is just reducing our issues to class and refusing to do the work, refusing to acknowledge intersectionality. So there's a lot of that. And the final were annoying. They were dismissive, they were condescending, they were insulting, they infantized, is that the word, Black people, and it was just like related with that. So those are the 4 types of comments that I got. So here's my response to all of them in turn. The first one, people would tell me, as I've already know, that MLK is a socialist, the Black Panther Party, and their activities were socialist in nature. Black farmers, the Rainbow Push Coalition, all of those have origins and foundations in socialism. Even the Black labor movement from the 60s and such. I thank you for telling me what I already know, but that really doesn't answer the question. And just so you know, the thesis of the video, if you don't watch it, was that these Democratic National Convention, or DNC, decided that the first state for the 2028 primary season was going to be South Carolina. And that meant that people who were running for office would have to go to the South Carolina, which has a sizable Black community, and see what their issues are and address their issues specifically. And I connected that to progressives because right now there's progressives are on the rise. A lot of progressive candidates are doing well. There's Angie Nixon in Florida. There is Dr. Abdul Asayed. He's not the DSA, but he's on that side. So there are a lot of on that side of the aisle who are doing well. So I said, why not compare the two? Because right now there's some friction. I recognize it. For me, the connection was opportunity for solidarity, opportunity for coalition building, opportunity to listen to one another. So I came to it with good intentions. But people got instantly defensive, and essentially they didn't beat the charges because they came at me and did a lot of the same things that I said was something that we need to work about and avoid. It's the second, the tokenization. A lot of people just mention Angie Nixon. They just mention these names as if that's absolves them from doing the work. Like the question, the topic was, we have these specific issues. I enumerated the specific issues. And I said, we have these specific issues. Let's talk about them and let's see what the progressive side has to respond to and has an alternative or has a solution, a policy to these specific issues. Rather than listen and see what those specific issues are, explore more, it was just, telling me that we got Black members Like that's the equivalent of some of my best friends are black. Well, I'm dating a black woman. By the way, here are some. Here they are. Here's the names of them. Tokenizing, and then the classism. And a lot of people are saying, "What's wrong with you people?" Because our policy positions are this, and the things that we are interested in: Medicare for all, freeing Palestine. We're interested in wealth gap, making sure the wealthy pay their fair share, income inequality. All those things that are our issues also impact you guys. So what is the deal? Like, what has the Democrat Party done for you guys? That, we're talking about stuff that's going to address you. It's an issue. And I have there's a slam poetry that I just came and saw this morning. It just came across my feed. It's actually 3 years old. It's really interesting. I shared it on Threads. I'm going to share it here in this video because when you watch that, if you stay long enough to watch that slam poetry, the last few lines of that poetry essentially is going to encapsulate everything I'm saying today. Is that you're reducing our issues to just class, and it's almost like an afterthought. You're saying, here's our issues, and you need to care about our issues because our issues help you. Talk about being dismissive and being like, so we don't need to listen to you because our issue is going to help you. And the analogy I used at the end of the video, but I realized that I didn't attach the end of the video to the original post. I said that what the left progressives sound like and what they look like, what they come across is the analogy I use is you go on a plane and the flight attendant tells you to put on your oxygen mask before you help someone else. Because if you don't, and while trying to help someone else, you may pass out. So have your oxygen mask on first. So the leftists have their oxygen mask on. They're ready to help stop this, do what they can to help everyone survive this crash or help the plane don't crash. So they're looking to the people who do not have their mask on yet and say, hey, come help us stop this plane from crashing, because when we stop this plane from crashing, you're going to be saved as well. So come on here. Ignoring the fact that they don't have their mask on. So that's what you look like when we say these are our specific black issues that aren't necessarily addressed, that are unique to our communities, that may not be addressed in your policy. They may, but what are they? What are your specific responses to these specific issues? And time and time again, no one acknowledges it. They acknowledge it in passing, like, yeah, of course we're interested in black issues, and they recenter themselves. They recenter what their issues is, and they would the other thing folks would do is demonize the black leaders, like the King Jeffries or Jim Clyburn, and they would talk about the Republicans, and they would say all these things. It's got none of that, whether you don't like this stuff, has anything to do with me asking you what are your specific policies to help me. That is the question. All these other things, sidestepping, don't really answer. And that's where you get to the fourth one. There's one person actually said that black people take their orders from Jim Clyburn, which was insulting as fuck. Like, who the hell? Like, how can you emphasize? Why are you just generalizing 14 million people that way? When they say there's a MAGA left, or the MAGA left MAGA, blue MAGA. That's equivalent of blue MAGA, because you're insulting and you're condescending and you're dismissive. And you say you guys don't know what you're doing. You're not helping the cause. You guys are stupid. You don't know what's right for you, what's good for you. That party's done nothing for you at all. So what the hell you guys hooking them to them? Those questions, you don't need to be asking those questions. You ask those questions. Go do the work and find out what they're doing for us. You're assuming it's nothing because you're an idiot. You're assuming it's nothing because you're a condescending prick. Maybe not, but you're assuming we have nothing because you haven't bothered to do the work to figure out what is the difference. And there is stuff that they do, clearly. So I'm going to do you a solid, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you, identify what I believe your issues are, identify what our issues are, see where the disconnect is, and I'll tell you specifically which Democratic policies actually address those issues of concern. And that is why people vote for them. I'll help you out. So stay tuned. It's on the other side of this. My understanding of the progressive Democratic Socialists of America sort of side of the aisle: free Palestine, stop the United States from supporting Israel, and cut military spending, and it's anti-imperialism, Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, climate action, canceling student debt, free college, housing for all, rent control, higher wages, stronger unions, universal child care, paid leave, abolishing ICE, immigrant procedures, tax the billionaires, curb corporations, police and prison abolition reform, reproductive freedom, LGBTQ and transgender rights, campaign finance reform, and Supreme Court reform. Every single thing, yes, they are things that I believe in, I support. A lot of members of the Black community also could support, clearly. But what none of those do so far, and I'm looking at them, address the specific racialized issues that are specific, unique just to us. Like, they're not. And just so that you know what the issues are, so in case you weren't knowing, they are the following. Job discrimination. So there's discrimination against Black people. Hiring, promotion, and equal pay. That's a Black issue. Not related to everybody, my issue. The access to good jobs, government contracts, and careers and pensions, which is really great for increasing that wealth gap, the Black-white wealth gap. Black voting power, of course, suppression and representation, being represented in houses of Congress and state houses and the like. Redlining, which is related to getting mortgages, home appraisals that are fair, home ownership, being able to purchase their first home. That's redlining. HBCUs and college access, funding specifically for historically Black colleges and universities, helping Black students enter. There's a high recidivism rate amongst Blacks and turnover for Black people. So that's a Black issue. Our general issue is Black. Health disparities, Black women, and combined with maternal deaths, Black women have the highest maternal death rate, Black infants. That's a Black issue. Health disparities regarding treatment and coverage, because I know personally, I've had it. My mom has had it. My daughter, all the women in my family. My daughter had an incident with her ear in her ear. We called the paramedics. They were dismissing her pain. Similar with me, similar with my mom, because there's this scientific, and there's studies about this. There's a belief that we don't have pain, or we're drug seeking, or they think that we're superhuman, so they're not willing to give us pain medicine when we're in pain. They don't acknowledge that. They do that just to us, Black people. So when you say Medicare for all, that's great, but what about these specific issues about Black maternal mortality, about the disparities in medical discrimination and racism? That's a specific Black issue that you guys are like, oh, we don't care about that. Medicare for all, that's good enough. Then you have school to prison pipeline. So you talk about prison reform and yes, all of that. But specifically, Black children are disciplined at a harsher rate compared to other children who are not Black. That's a specific Black issue. But Barack Obama had My Brother's Keeper initiative. And I know that Eric Holder had a program regarding that when he was Attorney General under Obama. So that is specifically for Black kids. And that's from the mainstream establishment. All right. Then you have Black business capital, access to capital to start businesses, to get loans, to get part of contracts, and of course, justice and policing gaps. So that's that's part of your agenda too. Now, like I mentioned, there's a lot of gaps. I'm saying these broadly, but these broad strokes of things don't address that issue specifically. And you can't tell us just assume we will have policies. What are the specific policies? So let me tell you the policies from the Democrat, and this goes to the person who says, what has the Democrats done for me lately? What have the Democrats done? How have they helped me lately? So I'm going to tell you how specific Democrat policies address those specific Black issues. And that might tell you why they vote for the establishment, because they have answers. And you haven't given us any specific answers, and you're just being dismissive and condescending. Like, that's not an answer. All right, let me tell you the other side. So establishment Democrats passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII EOC. All of those made hiring discrimination against Black people law. And they gave us remedies in case we were discriminated against. That helped a lot of Black people get jobs, narrow that wealth gap, and go into the middle class. When the person said, what establishment done for me? That's an establishment accomplishment. The Executive Order 11246 about contractor enforcement. A lot of Black people narrowed their wealth and rose out from poverty and able to do for their family because some of them were able to get contractors, because Democrats created things like the minority business development agencies. They created set-asides and different government programs, from broadcast advertising, being able to get a broadcast license. If you sell to a minority enterprise, you get credits. Those sort of things like that encourage them to want to find a minority partner, a Black partner. We benefited from that, benefited from the contracting, from the establishment Democrat policies. I'm hoping you're connecting the dots. Voting rights of 1965, federal protection against racial voter protection. That was from the establishment government, Democrats. I know it's been a long time since then. I know it's under attack. I know that's part of the policy and part of the progressive agenda. Fair Housing Act, fair lending enforcement was important for blacks getting access to homes when they were redlined, when they were denied homes and neighborhoods, and they suffered from rent discrimination, from all sorts of things being pushed out and denied. That we were denied specifically, not me, because I'm black people specifically were denied housing discrimination. That's a specific black issue. So when you say housing for all, okay, that's housing for all, that's great. But specifically, what are you going to do for our specific housing when we alone are subject to that sort of thing? There's a lot of anti-blackness in this country. So Medicare and Medicaid expansion, yes, great. ACA enforcement, they're on the same page. But specifically, the Joe Biden had a program for adjusting black maternal mortality. One of the things that Kamala Harris had as part of her platform was of getting people money for their first home. I mentioned housing. That a lot of black families like, that's great. That's something that's going to help our needs of wanting to get into a house, wanting to get a home. That's a specific policy that addresses us. Black mortality, black maternal mortality is specific for us. All right. My Brother's Keeper, I mentioned that, the minority business, making that a permanent thing for minority contracting, though I know this administration has destroyed it. Fair Sentencing Act, DOJ consent decrees. All of those consent decrees regarding policing, that was mainstreams doing that. So the mainstream establishment programs, establishment Democrats did a lot for black people. And for the young people who just don't know, to appreciate it, a lot of the ways that you have access, your family was able to rise up because of democratic policies, enables you and your family, you have a middle class to be comfortable, able to go to college. If you went to HBCUs, the Democrats codified that, so HBCUs get separate funding, because a lot of states, I know my state in particular, had state funding for their colleges. They gave the University of Maryland, because I'm in Maryland, they gave UMBC, they gave all the white schools all the money, and they gave Morgan State, Coppin State, Eastern Shore, all the HBCUs, they got scraps. They had to sue to get that back. But a lot of those policies and sort of making sure that it's codified, that we get our funding separate from the state funding, came from a Democrat administration, from a mainstream establishment. So when you say, what have they done for you? They've done a lot. And because they've done a lot, because they've helped people get into middle class, narrow that gap, allow their families to be able to have a pension, have savings, go travel, vacation, move into nice neighborhoods. So that is it. That's it. I hope that helps. And so that's not to say they don't care about poverty issues. Poverty is true, but we're not all poor. Some of us came up from poverty, so poverty doesn't matter, and we do care about poverty. But saying when we solve poverty, we solve the black problems is dismissive, and it's treating us as an afterthought. And it's also the broad brush that we're all poor, and all we care about is poverty and policing. That's what Bernie Sanders used to do a lot, used to piss me off. And so it's like, so you're not speaking to me, you don't see me, you refuse to see me, you refuse to acknowledge me. When we talk about issues, you say, don't worry about it. There's been there's some leftists who refuse to vote for Kamala Harris because her connection to Israel. That was a luxury, that was a privilege to say that you have your mask on. I'm going to use my principles to not vote for you. And part of what we have with Trump is because of people they were among the 90 million that sat out while we have the problem we have. We don't have the luxury. Black people will hold our nose, even if we're leftists, even if we're progressive, and say, we know that all the outcome, what we have now, is going to be harder for us. We're one of the people that suffer more. The brown people, the black people, suffer more than white left progressives. You might be angry, everyone's suffering, but we're suffering more because of their policies. And we knew that was going to come. So we were willing to say, you might not like the APAC money, you may not like all that sort of stuff, but we know the opposite, the alternative is going to be horrible. So we voted because of, and y'all say no. And now that you guys are getting voters, you're getting like your candidates going through, you're telling us to put aside our concerns and vote for your candidates anyway, when you guys weren't willing to do that for Kamala. Hope that helps.
The first day I realized I was black, it was 2000. We had just learned about blacks for the first time in second grade. At recess, all the white kids chased me into the wood chanting slave. My mother said I refused to come out for 3 hours. Said she thinks I was lost in the trees, but I just needed to be closer to my roots.
As a woman, having a boyfriend is a battle. If 70% of us are abused in a lifetime, what is the number of men doing it? The answer is not one man running faster than light to complete a mission, and that is what leaves me sick.
The second day I realized I was black was in a gas station. I only had 25 cents, so I searched what to spend it on. The cashier floated from aisle to aisle, eyes fixed on my hands. That was the first time I realized skin color was a crime.
My body has become cause to write legislation, cause for ass smacks in the back of a class. My body has demanded everything except respect. I've been asked, what makes you feel unsafe? And I struggle not to yell.
Everything. The third day I realized I was black was in an all-white cafeteria. I gathered my legs under me, made rockets of my feet, and approached a girl. She told me she was not into my type of guy. I felt the words shoot daggers into my melanin. I have never wanted to disappear so bad.
As a woman, I've learned to answer to everything except my name. Little lady is not said to mean equal, but to make sure I remember my place, I battle between wanting to own my body and accepting there's a 1 in 4 chance a man will lay claim to my skin, a plot of land for the taking.
The last day I realized I was black was in an elevator in California. To the white woman that told me she knows what it feels like to be black because she grew up poor, I would tell you to think before you speak, but your mind has got to be bacteria infected. And any filter through that labyrinth of nothingness might be worse than no thought at all.
There's a group of women going around the room sharing their personal definition of feminism. He is the only man in the room, and all of a sudden, the tone switches to destroying the patriarchy by annihilating all men.
Do you know what it feels like to be black? To pop lock your way in and out of hugs, it is not a problem you want to sympathize. But to tell me you know my pain is to stab yourself in the leg because you saw me get shot. We have 2 different wounds, and looking at yours does nothing to heal mine.
Never will I turn away an ally.
But when a man speaks on my behalf, that only proves my point.
Movements are driven by passion, not by asserting yourself dominant by a world that already put you there. You speak to no pain, you only fathom because we told you it was there. You know nothing of silence until someone who cannot know your pain tells you how to fix it. Every day is a crucifixion when there is no regards for lines crossed.
I fight so my voice can be heard. I fight for the voices you silence, all in the name of what is right.
The problem is you assume this struggle is attached to a social class. I am black and bold and beautiful by nature. Ain't no income that can change that.
The problem with speaking up for each other
is that everyone is left
without a voice.
Let's talk